it's time to do our final of our good primer meaty API products monetization track this morning before we take a well-deserved break. So work for it, y'all. Now, can I bring François to the stage, please?
Yes, hello.
Bonjour, bonjour.
Yeah, François from Finastra, yeah.
Oh, yeah, fair enough. If you can please share your slides, and how are you doing today? How's the weather where you are?
So I'm in Paris, so it's 5 degrees, but a sunny day. So, and we are Apidays LIVE Paris, so I'm the local here.
That's great. Yeah, hopefully by next year, let's see. Don't want to make any promises yet, but take it away. Thank you so much, François. Merci beaucoup.
Yeah. So let's start. So today I will speak about the delivery pipeline of Finastra, but this is not targeting Finastra or financial at all. This is something that can apply everywhere for any company. So I'm François Lasne, director of the Open API program, member of certain groups, Berlin Group and the API Thinking groups, where we speak about API governance. And I will do my talk today about the API pipelines and the importance of a good APIs. Because as you can see on this slide, an API specification is not only a text file, it's a serious contract. And so with great powers comes great responsibility, meaning that this contract needs to be done correctly, and it would be exposed to the public, it would be used, so yes, it's something that is that you need to really take care and handcraft. I will speak about the CI/CD, so continuous integration and all the checks that we are doing, but for sure, no automation can replace a review. And we used to say that the earliest you do the review, the better it is. This is why we push an API first and not a code first. We want to have people designing the APIs and then generating the code from the APIs and not the other way around. Just to have, again, the API at the center of the discussion. Review is a place where you can share with domain expert and API evangelists, so domain expert of the functional domain and of the technical domain. And then API review is always about compromise. And to get a global agreement. Still, review is nice, but if you do a lot of review, if you are handling a lot of APIs, the tooling helps. The tooling really helps in terms of, and having a good tooling is a key success to your to deploy a good APIs. So let's see how it goes. In our stack, we are using just Git Flow. So this is really a topic about API as a product, but API as code. So we have some develop branch and people are committing. Then we are doing pull review, and this is where you would see this automatic check, where here this is reducing clearly the size of the reviews and the timing of those reviews. And it's really important to have it, automatic, because at Finastra, we are handling around 700 active users, and we have a centralized team of that handles merge and deployment, etc. So having the more automatic check we have, the better we are. So let's deep dive into the API pipelines and see the steps that are required for that. First of all, as a company, you would need to have a standard, an API standard, a documentation. This is not a CI/CD at all. This is just a page that says what are your design guidelines. This is key, because otherwise REST is not standardized, and so there can be different understanding of REST in your company. So having a standard, a paper saying what are the standard, what are the choice of REST is a key. But the standard is good, but after that, you need to have a way to ensure that the standard is followed. And here is where the CI/CD enter into the play. At Finastra, we have we are using an API linter. This is a custom based, and we are handling around 150 rules. So those are the traduction of the API standard within rules and hard rules, like checking invalid character, checking if the API is camel case or if train case, depending on the style that you are choosing, checking if you have some the information, if you have a title, if you have a description, checking if the format are always present. You have a string, is there constraints on the string? You should have always a max size or there are constraints. If a field finish with dates, so it must have the type date or date times. We are also checking some headers when we are doing concurrency. That puts need to have an if match and a e tags for the get. We are handling also error codes about if we are doing a get. So depending on the use case, we need to have a 404. We are checking about the compliance, the security. Is it the right scope? Do you have scope? Is it following the right sentence? And we are also putting a lot of things about bad patterns, like date with no date, one char values constraint that usually is a yes, no, but should be a Boolean, and things like that. So here we have a standard, but rules and a linter, API linter is a key, and that's allow teams to have a kind of self-service and self-improvement. And this is about enforcing and encouraging the standards, because for sure you may need to have to be relaxed and to relax some rules. Then we have another layer that is your example. So very often you propose example in your API specification, but here some can be wrong. For instance, here you can see that the country is said that it is an ISO country alpha 2, and that for XYZ reason the developer has put France, so the extensive. So we are checking all the field names. Are they compliant in the example versus what is exposed? Is it the right type? Is it the right constraints? You have examples. Does the enums match the examples, etc. For that, we are using OpenAPI Enforcer. That is an open source tooling that is quite a good one. Then, as mentioned, API is a contract and is a strict contract. And so when you have developers, sometimes you can introduce break-in chains. So at Finastra, we are handling semantic versioning, meaning that we have the major if we introduce break-in change, but you need to be conscious that you are introduce a break-in change. This is why we are using a tool that is called OpenAPI diff, handling 47 rules about if you remove a field, if you rename a field, it will spot you a warning and saying that, okay, you are doing something wrong. Are you conscious that you are doing something wrong? If you are doing that, you should change the major version, and so on and so on. So this is really something that is useful, especially when your API is in production. We issue warnings still in beta when it is in beta, because in a beta we allow people to introduce break-in change. But having this kind of tooling allow you to keep consistency and again reduce the job of the API reviewer. That is can be time critical players in the centralized team. I put here this because we are developer, meaning that API specification is a documentation, a lot of text. And we are using CSPL, so a tooling again that is doing checking of your APIs. Because API are code, you cannot use Word or this kind of tooling to do that. So we are using a special tool, CSPL, that allow you to put something like that. You see, there is a typo instruction, and it suggests few names from a dictionary. This is code friendly, meaning that it handles camel case, it handles a train case, it handles all these kind of things. So the dictionary is rich enough. It can be run in the CI/CD and in Visual Studio Code, and it's really a useful tool. Again, in the breaking change topic, it's also allow you to detect, and especially when you are doing API first, that your specification must be ultra clean. And if you do a typo on a field name and then generate your code, sometimes it's too late. So it can have very bad consequences. And so that's yet again a tooling that's not so often used, but really gives good results. What we are also putting in place is a data classification process, because as mentioned in the other talk, data classification, GDPR is a key topic. So at each field of on APIs, we are putting, is it a classified field, is it a PII field, etc. And then we are going up to the field level, endpoint level, and global level. This is a tooling developed with a kind of rule sets based on field pattern and field names, and several combination of that. This tooling is very interesting also to give consistency across the company, because at the end we are handling a global dictionary, and a global dictionary of what is the vocabulary used in the company, what is the data classification of it, and this also gives good results in terms of, and this is also part of the quality to know what data you are sharing, etc. And let's say the classification for you, and also for the one who is consuming the data. We are providing tests. Postman is very useful for people when they just download the Postman collection, play the test, they can learn and understand how it works. But fair enough, test is good, but testing your test is better. So at each deployment, the Postman collection that we are setting is played again. Meaning it's when we deploy the APIs, we also deploy the test, and we also play the test. The fact that it is a test, that it is a Postman is good. The fact that it works is better. So so at each deployment we do it, but also more important, on a regular basis we play it. So we cover all the endpoints, all the scenarios, and we play it just to ensure that it's always on. Something else, it's important to have a test, but it's important that core system also follow the contract that is mentioned. So here is a sample. Your API spec define a square, that like a car has a color, for instance. But sometimes, even if it's API first, your core system might reply something else. That color is not color, but color with an S or something like that. Or the enums of the value are not compliant. And so at each deployment, we are playing a validation of, is it so the API was declaring a square. Do we receive a triangle? And if we receive something else that is not compliant to the contract, at least we emit a warning, so that the core team, so let's say the server team is aware that they are doing something wrong. So that's also critical and that is a way to spot a lot of bugs, is to do compliancy of your payload. We don't do that for the client side because it's more about security, but really the server side is a key topic here. After that, we are also going more and more in details. We are doing, and especially on the API side, but also on the server side, we are doing error injection. What is this kind of model? Fair enough. Usually, you in your OpenAPI spec, you declare that you are handling errors 404, 401, 400. But sometimes it's not so well implemented in the core system for XYZ reason, because they are using a framework, because for XYZ reason. So here we are injecting errors. So we play the Postman collection, and after we are playing the Postman collection, we just inject errors. We do a get/bob, for instance. And so we expect that the server that was saying that it was returning a 404 would return a 404, and that the 404 are the exact scheme that is provided here. Same, we introduce what we call token erasure. We introduce a call to the core system with no token, no security, and we expect that the servers return a 401. Same about consistency and concurrency. If the if match and if tags pattern, we introduce dummy values, and we expect that the server say no, and say no with a given error pattern. So those are really important when you want to ensure not only the quality of your APIs, but also the quality of your implementation. But both goes in the same plane. We have a lot of rules. You have seen 100 rules in one way for the linter, 47 in the break-in change, others in the injection, etc., etc. We are handling currently 200 API specification, around 1,000 endpoints, 40 Git repositories. So we have a lot of data. And it's important when we introduce a new rules, because we are handling a lot of people as well. Again, 700 people who are committing to the Git repositories. When you introduce a new rules, it's really important to understand what would be the effect of it. Does it break some things? Who you will need to ping to say, okay, we have introduced a new rules, your things will be broken. So for that, we are leveraging a set of tooling based on the test results, based on our warning, and we are doing massive regression, non-regression tooling. And in case of we break something, we are just pinging the teams to say, we introduced a new rule here, it will be broken, blah, blah, blah. And you get, and this is leveraging Jupyter Notebook to have a statistic of what are the errors. So here is the error ratio and the volume of the warning, for instance. We are playing test on a continuous way. We are playing non-regression tooling, so we can see the effect of a new rules. So those kind of information are really useful to pilot your CI/CD and to pilot your API strategy at scale, because it's easy to provide one APIs, to review it, take a bit of time, but when you go to scale, and more and more we are scaling for sure on the API economy, so it's really important to have this kind of tooling to be in control, just to be in control of what you are doing. So that's the end of what we are doing in our CI/CD. I can share more, but maybe it's time to have questions from the audience.
Absolutely, that was very interesting. I would say, like, for me, one of the questions I would like, since your role is like you're heading the open APIs and open banking at Finastra, what are some of the most interesting things or interesting products or third-party services you've integrated with that you can describe that you wouldn't have been able to without using Postman, using APIs, everything? So could you just give it a couple examples of what Open API has empowered you to be?
So
Finastra to be? Come, not you as a person.
so first of all, open APIs for a company like Finastra, who is a software provider for banks, is key just to be part of an API economy. Just in France, there is around 700 fintechs, meaning that a software provider like us is now not part, even if we are one of the biggest one, we are just part of an ecosystem. And this is key that this ecosystem can work, can leverage on your APIs, can learn about it, and leveraging on Postman just to learn, just to be able. Also, we are in a competitive world, meaning that today, a provider, when you are looking for a provider, you are looking for a good documentation. If you don't understand, you skip. Next. You are looking for someone who is where you can test, being self-service. If I cannot test, next. I don't want now to go to contact to a sales or to contact. I need to be self-sufficient. And so to be self-sufficient, you need good APIs, good documentation, good testing, self-service testing, so that you can evaluate. And in a competitive world, being able to test is now a key. I cannot test, I skip, I move to someone where I can test. And this is why having Postman is a key, having clear specification is a key, and having quality is a key as well.
But talk about some of your partnerships, if you can, that have been enabled by or that are particularly good at this self-service testing and documentation.
So Postman is a key for sure in terms of publicizing and tests. This is now main players. We are committed to open source. So and if I would have, we are committed to open source. So we are leveraging a lot of tooling. Honestly, if I would have to redo what we have done, especially the linter, I would leverage on Spotlight. They have a good linter, it's open source. What is a bit of shame as of today is that all those rules are not public. I would go to really open source leveraging. Spotlight has taken a good path with having their linter tooling open source, and you can contribute to put rules. I've seen several banks like BBVA that is publishing their standards. They're publishing their spectral rules. So this kind of company is really driving, mixing open source and let's say not open source. They have a good balance, and as well Postman for sure. They are key in this area.
Okay, we have a question from the audience that just popped up. Thank you. Thanks, Francois. Any plans, vision, feedback regarding EDA or async API usages on the financial market, in the financial market?
So as of today, I would say that we have seen no appetite as of today on the async APIs. Why? Because people are still moving they are moving to REST. Financial industry is fast and slow. We have fintechs that are so fast and banks that are so slow. We try to accelerate them for sure, but so far the async APIs is good. The schema is clear, but it's not so popular. And the key point is adoption. As of today, there is not so much adoption. And so here we are more following that, okay, you don't have any big standard in async APIs. It can be, I don't know, Swift, it can be ISO, it can be Berlin Group, PSD2, Open Banking. None of those big organisms are pushing for async. It will grow for sure because we want to have notification, we want to have asynchronous things, but the switch is not done yet. Currently, people are more doing, let's say, callback pattern, a classical callback pattern.
Okay, thank you so much. And thank you everyone who's joined me this morning. Merci beaucoup, Francois.